Okay.
So we've actually gone live.
Is it being recorded as well to play later on?
Yes, so it is being recorded. So yeah, I'm going to hit the record button shortly.
Super.
Cool. So good afternoon, everyone, and would it be good morning to the people in the US? Welcome to another edition of TCRM Conversations with Iso Bassey. And just to give you an idea about what the conversations are about. So, so these conversations are an initiative of the Cross River Movement, and they're aimed at, bringing people together, exchanging ideas, engaging in ways that, can foster the development of Cross River State. So in this edition, we're going to be discussing Tinapa and what's the way forward for Tinapa. So, those of us who are Cross Riverian know that Tinapa is arguably the single, most expensive infrastructure project undertaken by any government in Cross River State. And, there are questions, has it been good value for money? I think most people in Cross River State will say, no, it hasn't. But there've been seasons in Tinapa where it's been, functional to some extent. We're not sure exactly where, Tinapa is right now. We hear protesters went in during the aftermath of the NSAS protest and vandalized the place. So what exactly is the situation with Tinapa, and how do we move forward as a state with Tinapa? So I've got, quite an interesting and experienced panelists here who hopefully would help us do justice to this topic. And because we're live streaming, we're on Zoom, also on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So at some point we throw it open as well for questions from from the public. So I'm going to just introduce our panelists to us, and this is not in any particular order. We've got Dr. Francis Ekom, who is a specialist in free trade zone management, and he takes a vision and makes it reality through sound strategy development and implementation. He is currently the general manager at Tinapa Free Zone and the Resort, Nigeria's premier business, leisure, and entertainment zone. I don't know, Francis, I don't know whether it's still that, but that's what your bio says. So Francis overcomes day-to-day, he oversees day-to-day operations of the multi-million-dollar facility, wading through greenfield-related challenges, using a deft application of strategies and his knowledge of the industry. So Dr. Francis Ekom, welcome to this conversation. We have also Mr. Kalu Aja, and he's a certified financial education instructor. He has over 22 years of composite experience gained over the years working with UAC of Nigeria as a brand manager, BGL Limited, where he worked on the institutional pension desk. I also worked with Fidelity Bank PLC, where he headed the asset management desk of the private banking unit. And also with FCMB Pensions, where he was part of the pioneers who set up the PFA from scratch, and he held the position of the COO. So Carlo is also a member of the H. Pearson faculty. He's got an MBA from the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and he's an alumnus of Lagos Business School and a member of the Association of Financial Counseling and Planning Education, and is also a member of the American Financial Planning Association. He's also an alumnus of the West Africa Capital Markets School and the New York Institute of Finance. Carlo lives in the US and works as the director of finance of a foundation. He's a writer, he's a blogger, and publishes in Business Day, newspaper, and Nairametrics, amongst others. And finally, last but not the least in any way, is Mr. David Etten. And he's a very active committee member of the Nigerian Association of Chamber of Commerce, Industries, Mines, and Agriculture, Maritime Trade Group. He's the deputy president of the Calabar Chamber of Commerce, Industries, Mines, and Agriculture, CALCIMA. He's doubled as the chairman. He also doubles as the chairman of the Ports Advocacy and Marketing Committee under CALCIMA. And by extension, is a member of the technical committee currently processing the establishment of a Trade Consolidation and Facilitation Center in Calabar to facilitate trade within the Gulf of Guinea states, which is to be located in the Tinapa Free Trade Zone, Calabar. So gentlemen, welcome to this conversation. It's a pleasure to have you.
It's a pleasure too here.
Pleasure. Yeah.
All right, great. So we have, I'm sensitive to the fact that we have an audience from, pretty much all around the world. And some will be cross-riverian, some will not be. So I'm going to just read out a brief history and a few facts about Tinapa just to set the conversation going. So this is information in the public space. The source of this is Wikipedia. So Tinapa is a business and leisure resort located north of Calabar Municipality, Cross River State, Nigeria, associated with the Calabar Free Trade Zone. It was developed in 4 phases under private-public partnership promoted by the government of Cross River State. The resort is located by the Calabar River, contiguous with the Calabar Free Trade Zone. The resort sits on approximately 80,000 square meters of lettable space for retail and wholesale, made up of 4 emporiums of 10,000 square meters each. It's got smaller shops and warehouses, an entertainment strip which contains a casino, a digital cinema, children's arcade, restaurants, a nightclub, and pubs. There's an artificial lake that feeds from the Calabar River, a water park, leisure, and there's parking space also for 4,000 cars. Business facilities include an open exhibition area for trade, exhibitions, and other events, and a movie production studio commonly called Tinapa Studio. There is a 243-room international 3-star hotel, and the resort also has a truck terminal and is powered by an independent power plant. Tinapa was initiated by Governor Donald Duke as a way to boost business and tourism in the state. Over $350 million was spent on initial development. The first phase of Tinapa Resort and Free Zone, Calabar, was commissioned on the 2nd of April 2007 by Nigeria's former president, Olusegun Obasanjo. Right, so let's get into the conversation now. So I think, we've read out from Wikipedia the description of Tinapa as a facility. I think it would be good, first of all, to find out, what's the current state of Tinapa? And I think Dr. Francis Ekom, I think that's a question that would throw across to you.
Well, I'll say for now, Tinapa is, maybe limping, wobbling along, but alive. And for us, that is a feat in itself, that we've kept the facility alive and available for opportunities that we know will eventually come to heart. So yes, we were impacted, probably we were the worst hit by the NSAS riots. Virtually everywhere was affected. The entire 242-room hotel was totally vandalized. Our offices were set ablaze, mine especially. Everywhere they had 2 days of unfettered access to everywhere. So at the end of the day, we had a situation where the facilities were destroyed. However, the superstructures are intact and they can be refurbished. And between when that incident occurred in 2020 and now, we've been able to get the water park back on stream. Is available for and ready for visitor use. So Tinapa is basically still functional except for the 2 weeks following the invasion by hoodlums. So that's where Tinapa is right now. Retail trade and commercial aspect is still ongoing. The hotel business is rested for now, pending the renovation of the hotel. We're also taking a look at the possibility of repairing some line shops so that businesses can that are already on ground can at least carry on some form of business activity or trade, pending when a more robust approach, can be implemented to revamp and refurbish the entire facility. So that's where Tinapa is currently in terms of its physical state.
Okay, Dr. Ekong, thanks very much. I'm not sure I got you very clearly, but you said that the water park is functional. Is that the case?
Yes.
And
that
then,
is the case.
Okay, so what about the emporiums? What about the retail space there as well?
Like I mentioned, I don't know if you're hearing me clearly. Is my audio level okay? Is it satisfactory?
It's a bit here and there, but if you can maybe come a bit closer, maybe we'll be able to hear you a bit better.
All right. Like I said, the hotel is probably the only component that is right now totally comatose. Okay, the hotel and the games arcade. For the water park, we have that back on stream. For the offices, we're able to operate despite the situation. A few of the line shops have been fixed to enable the retail businesses carry out their activities. Okay, the emporia are still in need of renovation. The 50% of the warehouse space has been restored somewhat, and then every other place is awaiting a more robust renovation. Did you get me?
Yes, I did. Okay, Francis, maybe before I move on to another panelist, maybe it would be good to understand from you, because you obviously represent, the interest of the government of Cross River State, correct? On the project.
Well, beyond that, the interest of every shareholder.
Right.
Is,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So maybe I think that leads me nicely to another question, which is, who are the shareholders of Tinapa? Who are the shareholders? Who actually owns Tinapa? Because I think that's something that a lot of people have been curious to know, but that information just doesn't seem to be that available.
I'm surprised that people still ask this question. Now, Tinapa was promoted by the Cross River State government, but then it is owned by a group of equity providers, I would say, shareholders that include a number of Nigerian banks. Initially about 13 of them, but then since then, some of those banks have merged and all that. So I would say the Cross River State government, some Nigerian banks, some individuals as well. And also equity investment from a state government, and then another one from an agency of government, an agency of the federal government. I wouldn't want to mention names, but then this will give you an idea of the basket of shareholders. So Tinapa belongs to all of them, although of course their equity contribution varies. Right now, Cross River State government seems to be the majority shareholder of Tinapa.
Okay. Now, I guess another question to you would be, how much does the government spend monthly or yearly on Tinapa? So I understand that there would be obviously costs associated with keeping the facility, maintained, but we know that the facility, took the state government into a very, or took the state into a very high level of debt. What does the government spend, monthly or yearly servicing the debt and in maintaining the facility?
Unfortunately, I don't have recent figures, or I don't have figures, related to, the deductions the state government, is having to bear on periodic intervals, as in with regards to servicing the Tinapa federal government, loan, not loan, it was actually a bond that crystallized. So the federal government paid that, and the state is paying, that, on a regular basis. However, I want to point out that, we are not under any kind of subvention from the Cross River state government. So the operation of Tinapa, running Tinapa on a day-to-day basis, is not from the coffers of the Cross River state government. Yes, Cross River state government is currently, I understand, they're currently paying bills related to the bond. Okay, but then for subventions and all that, no, that is borne by management.
Okay, Dr. Ekon, thanks very much. Let me move this over to Mr. Kalu Aja. Mr. Aja, I know you've written, I believe, extensively about Tinapa. I also watched a lecture that you delivered, I think it was to an SPPG class, and you also mentioned, Tinapa there. So I'd like to hear your views about Tinapa. And there's always that, people tend to refer to Tinapa commonly as a free trade zone, and in one of your, I think it was in your lecture, you pointed out that it's actually a free zone, and there's a difference between a free trade zone and a free zone. So maybe you'd want to shed a bit more light on that and, tell us your views about Tinapa. You need to unmute. Sorry, are you having difficulty? You are having difficulty. Okay. All right, Mr. David Etum, I think we'll move over to you. I know you're a member of the Calabar Chamber of Commerce, an organization that represents the organized private sector in Cross River State. What is your assessment of Tinapa right now? Because Dr. Ekon has told us that he's pretty much told us painted a brighter picture than many of us have heard about Tinapa. I'd like to know from you, what's the situation with the with the project, and to what extent is the organized private sector involved in Tinapa?
Box residents. Yes, thank you very much, Iso. Yes, Tinapa in terms of an asset or in terms of infrastructure is a world-class facility. Let's get that straight off the bat. Tinapa is a world-class facility that was built to international standards, best possible international standards. Now, that is why even after vandalization, even prior to vandalization, even after a lot of neglect, the infrastructure still stands. So it is a world-class infrastructure that was put in place. That said, in terms of its potential, Tinapa is, and I mean, its potential is almost limitless in terms of what can be achieved out of Tinapa. It's near limitless. Now, that said, Sorry, I'm just stepping out of a car. I was transiting when we started up. That said, the Calabar Chamber of Commerce is developing a project called the Calabar and Gulf of Guinea Municipal, or is promoting with certain other parties a project called the Calabar and Gulf of Guinea Municipal and Trade Center, which is based.
Okay, Mr. Eaton, maybe we'll come back to you. Let's give you maybe a few minutes to settle into your hotel. Mr. Aja, are you ready now? Okay, so please, go on. Let's hear your thoughts, and maybe you can highlight that difference between a free trade zone and a free zone, and what the impact might be on a project like Tinapa.
Yeah, great. And I just hope you can hear me clearly now.
Yeah.
Super. So thanks for the invite. I got this invite and I was pleased to get it. It's a project or a topic that's been in my mind. I'm not from Cross River State, but I have very, very deep roots in this topic, right? So when I started off in investment banking years ago, I think it was decades ago, my MD called me for a meeting and I was to take notes and basically be the guy to manage that time. And in the meeting was a gentleman from Cross River State.
Your audio isn't very clear. I don't know if there's anything you can do to improve it.
A bit better now?
Yes, it is better now.
All right. So when I started off in investment banking, is it clear now?
It is.
Super. When I started off in investment banking, my MD had called me for a meeting. And there was a gentleman from Cross River State, I believe he was Director of Finance, Commissioner of Finance, and he had come to Lagos to raise a bond for a project called Tinapa. And in my mind, I thought this guy is crazy. Why would anyone want to go invest billions of dollars in quote unquote a backwater called Tinapa? And he started to speak about this project, the project that was designed that got KPMG to do the financials. And you could see the sense in what he was saying. This is a place with agriculture, with very, very good people, very welcoming, and they had an international airport. The idea was to go there and then build a theme park with hotels, build a port, so that then you could have trade going on. You then had the ports, and then you then had people coming there instead of going to Dubai. So the whole idea was to build, quote unquote, a Dubai in Nigeria. To build that, you needed three things. Number one, you need the ports, so you get the commerce going. Then number two, the port has got to be a free port or a free trade zone port. So people can come in, clear their goods, do business, buy and sell, but not pay customs duty. That was a key thing there. And of course, number three, you had to build the infrastructure. Of these three things, Cross River could only do one. So Cross River had to simply build the infrastructure. And Cross River delivered on that perfectly. They got Julius Berger. The Tinapa is the only and is the largest single private investment, not in Nigeria, in Africa, the largest single investment done by a private entity, single block. Julius Berger built that. So they delivered that perfectly. They then had to get the customs license to getting goods in and out without a customs license. I think they got that for about 50,000 naira back then also. And then, of course, the Calabar port, the passageway had to be dredged. This is where the problem came in. The port was dredged, I believe, once, but the silt built back again, and it wasn't dredged again. So the port itself, quote unquote, wasn't functional to allow bigger ships to come in. The trade agreement that they got for the Calabar port was not a free trade zone. So Calabar itself not a free trade zone. Big distinction there. It's a free zone. I don't know what the free zone is, but I know what the free trade zone is. So you have them all over the place, Lagos and all that. So you can, like where the Dangote is building the refinery, you can take goods in and out, and you are basically, quote unquote, not paying duty. These two things caused the Tinapa not to operate optimally on a commercial level. Even the bond that Tinapa got was a very innovative bond. It was a zero coupon bond, which meant that there was no dividends or no coupons being paid by the private guys that set up the Tinapa. It was basically a bond that would come due at maturity. And because the commercial activities of the ports and Tinapa did not take place optimally, then that bond became due, right? So Calabar in quotes, or Cross River in quotes, has been punished for taking an innovative investment. We talk about diversification, non-oil. When this was done, or later on, Calabar had no crude oil. Cross River had no crude oil, but they built this, they invested in this, they diversified away their economy, and you can see where we had the Calabar tourism, you had the street carnivals, you had the Obudu mountain ranch races, you had all that non-oil revenues and positioning of the state as a premier destination for tourism in Nigeria. And this is what the state did alone with the private sector. The state just got involved because the bond, like I said, didn't come to fruition. And then all this then came to crash because the federal government cannot dredge the ports consistently because they have that exclusive right. And number two, the customs, which is the federal government as well, cannot agree with Cross River on how this export trade and licensing and exemptions from the state will take place. So it's a huge tragedy for Nigeria because what Tinapa means is that if a state goes out of its way to try to diversify its earnings, try to create wealth at the local level, sub-level, it will run across these risks that are sovereign and it will pay the price. So I really feel for Cross River. They took a chance on the word of the government that says want to diversify the country, want to push non-oil revenues, and they did their part. They built the structure. The sad thing is this: if Warren Buffett or any other investor that comes to Nigeria and said, I want to do exactly what Calabar has done, I want to build this world-class trading infrastructure in Cross River State, the Nigerian government will go out of their way to offer them this tax break or that tax break. The president would have gone there and he would have hailed it as a democratic dividend, and it would have been celebrated. So I don't understand how the state can invest what Tinapa has done and we allow it to just waste. It boggles the mind. I don't think people really understand what Tinapa was with the Nollywood studios that were talking about fintech and getting money in. It was there. It was built. The water theme parks were built. The hotels were built. The emporiums were built. These malls were built. Everything was done by Julius Berger at a huge cost because the federal government promised that if you build this, we will support you with the port and with the customs license. And then the federal government failed. So we have to say it exactly how it is. Praise the Cross River State and put the blame exactly where it is. And then so that we can understand why Nigeria is where Nigeria is. Unless you sort a point like Tinapa up, what will happen? Everyone else is going to just go and do ShopRite. I just do a nice ShopRite and people clap for me and I'm good. What Tinapa really is a big failure because the federal government failed to do what it had promised to do when Tinapa had gone to get this large commitment to invest in the state, to grow wealth, not just for the state, but for the government of Nigeria. Thank you.
Mr. Aja, thanks very much for that insight. Very valuable. It's quite sad to hear that. I mean, we did hear many years ago that I think the government was battling with the federal government to get the operational framework for Tinapa. It's something that has been ongoing for a very long time. Dr. Francis Ekong, where do things stand? And is that something that, is it really still feasible to think that we could actually go back to the original plan for Tinapa? Do you think that's feasible, or do you think that we've sort of moved beyond that and should be looking at perhaps repurposing the facility for something different? You're muted, you need to unmute.
Thank you, Bassey, for that question. I hope I'm audible enough. And for the last speaker, yes, that was a very wonderful submission you made, because people will ordinarily think, okay, the project was just undertaken without due and proper analysis and all that. No, a lot of experts were involved in evolving the model, the business model. Everything was discussed, And assumptions were made, assumptions that were not just plucked from the sky, assumptions that were based on research. Now, after the exit of that regime that promoted Tinapa, the succeeding regime commissioned a research institute, a body, to undertake another study to reassess the Tinapa model, to find out if the assumptions that were made, that led to its establishment were still valid. And guess what? They came back to say it was even more relevant than before. Did you get that? In other words, the reasons for establishing Tinapa are even more relevant today than they were then. And I tell you, Tinapa does not require a single naira of the Cross River State government money to survive. What we have experienced over time is the sluggish performance has come from a multiplicity of sources. There's no need to rejig the Tinapa model. In fact, Tinapa for us is a platform that is supposed to accommodate businesses of different kinds as far as they conform to the regulatory framework that establishes, Tinapa. So there's no need to, when I hear people say, okay, Tinapa should be converted to this business or the other business, I laugh. You do not need to convert Tinapa into anything else. Tinapa can accommodate all these as far as it fits into the regulatory framework. Let me give you an example. Tinapa can accommodate, like what the Calabar Chamber of Commerce is proposing and promoting, an export commodity hub. That can fit in. Yes, we can accommodate that. Tinapa can accommodate a wellness center, an international wellness center that will divert the stream of medical tourists that go to India. There's someone ready with that proposal and even the capacity to implement it at no cost to Tinapa as an organization or the Cross River State government or any of the other shareholders. Tinapa can also accommodate an ICT hub. Tinapa can accommodate so many things. Tinapa can accommodate.
Sorry to interrupt you. I know that during the government of Senator Leon Imoke, an IT incubation center was cited in Tinapa. What is the position of that incubation center right now?
Well, that was an investment of the Cross River State government. Unfortunately, they couldn't continue after the end of that administration, and that has been part of the challenge. That's of continuity. What has befallen Tinapa and has accounted for its sluggish performance, is both internal and external. There are certain things that should not be, okay, but then they have happened because this is Nigeria. Like the gentleman Carlos said, there are some actions or inactions, okay, of government agencies at the federal level and all that. And you ask yourself, why is it so? If this were to be in Lagos, will we experience the same response or the level of support that we have received so far? If this were to be elsewhere, what would have been the level of support from the center? The federal government of Nigeria remains the greatest beneficiary of Tinapa, not even the Cross River State government. The federal government, let me give you an example of it. In between 2013 to 2015, Tinapa was the biggest for the highest income earner for the Nigeria Customs Service. This can be verified in Cross River State. Did you get that? In other words, in the whole of Cross River State, Tinapa was their biggest income earner for the federal government, of course, through the Nigeria Customs. So apart from that, you have ship, maritime vetting fees and all that. You have all other income filling in, not to Tinapa, not to the Cross River State government, but to the federal government. Yes, I know it was a greenfield project. Even the government agencies that were meant to implement this were also at sea. They needed to come to terms with these new ideas that required some of them to re-engineer their mindset and all that. Customs was expected to act differently from what they have been used to and all that. I know all that, but we could have done better as a nation. Thank God, okay. Thank God Tinapa has not failed. Yes, we have lost a lot of time, but I tell you, Tinapa has great potential and it will take off vertically, not even driving like a plane. No, it will take off once a few things are attended to, and those things are quite known to the government.
Just for the sake of clarity, do you mind mentioning what those things are, just so that we're very clear on them?
Well, number one, the Tinapa debt seems to be what is out there. Everybody talking about the heavy debt overhangs and all that. But what really is that debt? The most prominent is the AMCON loan, right? That has given rise to the contention as to whether Tinapa belongs to the Cross River State government and the other shareholders or to AMCON. I've always advocated that this loan should be interrogated. Yes, we took a loan that we could not pay, crystallized and all that. But then, can we, were we ever given an opportunity to even discuss the loan? Okay, that matter went to court, and so I can't elaborate on it. But we're at some point where someone needs to engage with the lender. Okay, and if that is sorted out, I think the AMCON, whatever, will equally fizzle out. So that's the major one. So what are the other debt components? These are big companies that can be brought to the table and negotiated with. Okay, there are various options that can come in at that point. But then, so the debt issue can be interrogated. It's not something that is mystical. Number two, now for a project that happens to be the biggest project any state government in Nigeria, and then is the biggest tourism project in the whole of Africa, guess what? For many years, the promoter, treated it, as a sidekick. Now, for every manufacturer or producer, you get to a point where you have the privilege of placing a price tag on your product. Is that correct? Hello? Are you hearing me?
Go with you.
Now, if the owners of the product do not convey value to onlookers, if the price tag on the product is low, then other stakeholders, onlookers, there will be buyers will follow suit and will accord that product the price tag or the value that you have placed on it. Am I correct?
Carry on.
Are we together?
Yeah, carry on.
All right. So now, for several years, we had, chief executive officers that were running Tinapa on part-time basis. They had their positions already that were very, tasky. And then they also, have to cover the Tinapa angle. And then, of course, yes, it's possible and all that. But then Tinapa requires not even 24 hours, if possible, a 26-hour attention. 26 hours a day attention, even if that were to be possible. Tinapa is a garden that requires a lot of care and attention and all that. And then the promoter of the business now, treats it that way. Okay, this for years. Okay, yes, we have a substantive MD now, but then we had years where these chief executives were not totally focused on Tinapa. Their primary responsibilities were elsewhere. So, and then beyond that, you have a situation where there's no board. There's no board that has been constituted for years now. Now, the board of directors play a very vital role in any organization. They determine so many things, ranging from policy direction up to, up to even the culture of the organization and all that. But this has been there pending for years. Then you also have, I tell people, people say, oh, customs. But I tell you, Cross River State and Cross Riverians have done more disservice to Tinapa than customs will do in 1,000 years.
Why do you say that?
So, the same thing I said before. If we do not accord appropriate value to our own product, for which we have spent taxpayers' money.
But I think that's unfair, to the average Cross Riverian, because people are proud. I mean, Tinapa was commissioned in 2007, and many of us would go to Tinapa and be proud of this great facility that our government had established, and we would tell people, and people would come, and there was activity going on there, which was encouraging at the time. But then we moved from there to a situation where nothing is going on in Tinapa. And so when people come there, it's natural for them to look at this facility and just shake their heads and say to themselves, basically people have lost confidence, basically. So there's a basis for that.
Bassey, you're one of the enlightened ones, okay? You're one of the enlightened ones, and based on your activities, you've been around government, so you know what has been going on. However, not many are that informed. Part of what has affected Tinapa is the politicizing of
the politicizing of
Tinapa. I mean, if Tinapa were privately owned from day one, I tell you, it would have done better. You have situations where investors came. I remember one, that set up a team of investors. There were about 8 reputable companies, and they had all the funds they needed. They were going to undertake a massive, project to publicize Tinapa across Africa and all that. They have set up the logistics network and all that. And just at that point, they then, House of Assembly commenced I'll call it a probe and all that. But it was all based on politics. And these people came and they were like, okay, I think we came into, a rowdy room, and let's step outside. And that did not just happen once. It has happened several times. So when I say Perseverance will need to decide that they want not just Tinapa, but every government project to thrive. We owe it to ourselves to ensure that no project that has been undertaken with our collective wealth is allowed to go to waste. If we develop that kind of mindset, then we will take these projects away from politics. All right, let's run them like businesses. Recently, news made the round that a certain company had to take a business decision. Okay, they decided to withhold certain benefits to an important customer and all that. And people, some people felt, how could that have been and all that? But that's how businesses are run. The same thing here will tell you, business is not politics. The same thing, am I right? I mean, business is not politics. The way a businessman will run an organization will be different from, the way a politician will. Because tomorrow that businessman may not come to ask for votes. So we need to run these businesses that they are.
Okay, Dr. Com, thank you. Mr. David Etim, it looks like you're settled now. So please, if you can, maybe share your views about this, what we're talking about. We can't, Mr. Etim, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Excellent.
And just to say, we're going to open it up for questions. So, if anyone who's on the Zoom, or if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, if you have a question, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, just type it there and we'll try and pull the questions in. If you're on Zoom, you can just indicate using the reactions icon that you'd like to ask a question, and we'll be able to come over to you. Yeah, please go on, Mr. Etim.
Okay, yes. Now, like I was trying to say, Tinapa 1 is an excellent facility, well built, and that's why it has survived the turbulence it's been through. That said, I don't believe we should romanticize the facility. I believe we should put the facility to work. Yes, the infrastructure is built, it's there. Today we have a global African policy or thrust called the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement, which is designed to promote trade, free trade within Africa, creating Africa to be one market, one huge market. Okay. Now, Calabar, in its geographical, by design of God, geographical locationing, is the port, the Calabar Cross River State is the end of West Africa in the southern parts. Okay. And the beginning, and our border with Cameroon is the beginning of Central Africa. That gives us a huge geographic opportunity. Calabar is a port city. Calabar is the only city outside of Lagos that has 3 international exit corridors: land, sea, and air. No other city in Nigeria has the same. It is only Calabar and Lagos that have that opportunity. So our mirror image of business opportunity or prosperity should be Lagos. Okay? Lagos does not have land. That is why Ogun State has merged itself into Lagos and provided a Lagos expansion room. Cross River State is located on 27,000 square kilometers of land. Okay? So we don't have a land issue. We have 9 months of rain in the year. Okay? Now, these are God-given facts. The Gulf of Guinea, which the Calabar River, opens up into, is one of the largest spawning grounds for aquatic life in the world, after the Indian Ocean. Okay, tuna. That Gulf of Guinea area is the second most prolific tuna spawning ground in the world. There is no tuna canning company in Nigeria. The nearest in the Gulf is in Ghana, in Tema. Okay? The European Union have signed fishing rights with Côte d'Ivoire, okay, to exploit the aquatic resources of the Gulf of Guinea. Look at Côte d'Ivoire. Look at where where the Gulf of Guinea really is. I mean, let's not talk about the geographic Gulf of Guinea. Let's talk about, situating it where all this tuna, all these resources are between Akwa Ibom, let's say Akwa Ibom, Cross River, Cameroon, down to Gabon, including Sao Tome Principe, and if you just run a circle around there, that is the hotbed of aquatic resource in the Gulf of Guinea. Ivory Coast is getting resources from Europe to exploit that. On what they call the unregulated illegal fishing, okay? The Gulf of Guinea is the largest exploited area in the world today of unregulated fishing. Maximum exploitation with zero value to the communities. Okay? I'm just giving you some facts of the opportunities that we are just passing over. Tinapa was built for trade. It was not built for manufacturing. It's the only free trade area in Nigeria that was purpose designed for trade. Every other free trade zone was designed with the concept of manufacturing. That is why in the Calabar Free Trade Zone, you see manufacturing going on there. Whatever manufacturing or light manufacturing, as Francis likes to call it, that goes on in Tinapa is a child of circumstance. Is a child of circumstance. It was not purpose specific. Okay, it's in the attempt to survive that all of this is happening. Now, Tinapa, let's look at the infrastructure. Tinapa has 4 emporia of 10,000 square meters footprint, temperature controlled, okay, excellently built. The floor of Tinapa is rubberized paint, which is excellent. It's if you go into any factory in Europe, just use pharmaceutical standards, okay? The floor of a pharmaceutical manufacturing plant in Europe, it is the same quality of flooring that they have in Tinapa. So dust does not sit on it. It is so well built, it's unimaginable. I brought in a team of 13 experts. Francis knows about this in 2012. The casino location in Tinapa, a guy who consults for Southern Sun, who built the most successful casino in Hamburg, came to Tinapa and said, David, I have not seen a better purpose-built casino facility anywhere in Africa. Francis knows about it. Okay? Now, let's look at where do we go with Tinapa, because all the history about this is what happened, that is what happened, customs, this, all of that.
We'd like to know the way forward.
Let's go forward. Let's go forward. Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is the way forward. Calabar, by its geographic location, is a trigger for trade. Okay? The Calabar Chamber of Commerce is promoting what we call the Calabar and Gulf of Guinea Municipal and Trade Center, which is basically to develop a trade hub in using Tinapa as the anchor point. Okay? Cross River State, the Africa Development Bank built a road called, are promoting the building of a road called the Trans-African Highway. The Trans-African Highway enters Nigeria at Mfum, which is in Etung local government, which used to be part of ICOM. Okay? Excellent road. The facilities there, just last Saturday, we were there with a team from the Trade Facilitation Committee of the federal government. The facilities we have at Mfum are better than the facilities that exist in Semeboda in Lagos. How much trade is going through that line? Very little, next to nothing, in comparison with what should be. Okay? Why is that happening? Because we have not built the ecosystem to drive trade. Tourism is fine, but trade is where it's happening. Okay, trade is where it's happening. Calabar has been a trade hub for millennia. Okay, the old Calabar kingdoms were trading with the Cameroons, up to Gabon. Okay, there are tribes in Monroe, in Liberia, that are originally Efik. So when they speak, we understand. But when we speak, they can't understand. Why? Because of trade. Trade took them there. Now, so we are traders. We're traders. Coming back to the issues. Tinapa, there is the reason why I talked about the aquatic resources of the Gulf of Guinea is because Tinapa's 4 emporia are excellently built and with very little tweaking can become, they're already temperature controlled, so there's already deducting there, can become some of the largest warehousing that Africa has for refrigerated products. What is the difference between a temperature controlled auditorium and a freezer? Insulation and the compressor. That's it. The ducting for Tinapa is already there. The facility has been vandalized, so the compressors are presumed stolen. Okay? Now, if we shift our mind from having a Walmart to becoming a facility where the whole of Africa can bring, most of the prawns you see here that say Nigerian prawns are caught in the Calabar estuary. But none of the ships that go there to fish come into Calabar. Sailing time from the fishing grounds to the port of Kirikiri is 3 days. Sorry, it's a day and a half in, a day and a half out. So you use 3 days travel time. It's 6 hours from Calabar. Why aren't the fishing trawlers that go out there coming to the port of Calabar and we're shipping? We have a port in Calabar and we're shipping those prawns from Calabar because there is no cold facility. But we have the potential of putting a 240,000 cubic meter cold refrigerated facility in Calabar today. Within a month, that facility can be ready. Okay? And it will be the largest facility in this part of the world. 240,000 cubic meters of storage space, temperature controlled. Okay, now that for me is the way forward. Africa Continental Free, we have a port already, we have an airport. In the 70s, you could fly directly from Calabar to Libreville or to Kinshasa or to Douala. It's called Margaret Egbo International Airport. What's international about it today? Nothing.
Yep, absolutely nothing. In fact, the flights that go out of it to even Lagos and Abuja are very limited.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm going to read a comment here, and then we'll throw it open if others have questions or comments to make. So, sure. So Mr. Nina Break says, considering the fact that Tinapa has already got hard infrastructure in place that is not going anywhere except for demolition. That's true. Can CRSG investigate a total decoupling of the transaction from the federal government, localize all the risk, including the AMCON issues, and own the assets such that it can be revitalized via relevant international participation? So I think what he's saying here, Mr. Ajah talked about the operational framework, the issues with the federal government, etc. Is the way forward to decouple it from all that? So
no.
Is it to look and say, okay,
no.
it's been 15 years, sorry, let me land. It's been 15 years since this project was commissioned. If it continues to depend on some operational framework from customs or from the federal government, are we ready to wait another 15 years for that to happen, or do we pivot to something different?
Can I come in?
Yes, please.
Trade, okay? Trade in its entirety is on the exclusive list of the federal government. So that's a constitutional issue. Okay, so let's not even go there. Let's not even go there. Okay, trade is a constitutional issue. Now let's working under the ambit of what's possible now. Okay, working under the ambit of what's possible now. The thing to do is to work in terms of regulation. In terms of regulation, the federal government, all the rules, all the requirements for Tinapa to go forward are in place today. Okay, all the rules for Tinapa to go forward are in place today. The problems, the historical problems,
are we saying that this much talked about operational framework from
it's done.
Is in place?
It's done. It's in place. It's done. Okay. Yes, it was a restriction at the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, but today, that's no longer the problem.
So if that is not holding us back, so if that's not holding the project back,
yes,
at the current moment, then is it fair to say that the assumptions then, the underlying assumptions for the project were not the right ones, in which case the project is just not feasible?
No. Please, the project is viable, okay? The project is viable, okay? Now, the facts of the matter are that at the point in time when, if I may say this very simply, the administration of Donald Duke ran faster than the regulations that he required. Okay? So he put in place the infrastructure while the regulations that he required to operate that infrastructure were not ready by the time the infrastructure was ready.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, his administration left. The next administration that came in, okay, brought the infrastructure, brought the regulation into being. They saw that regulation come into being, but they did not have his verve for the project. Okay, so that now caused the project to tether. Okay, but all that is in the past. All that is yesterday's story.
Sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Etten.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe let me just ask Francis a comment, because if Tinapa is owned by shareholders that include, the banks, the state government, private individuals, why is it difficult for those people to come together and say, we want this thing to work, after all, we put our money in here, right? I'm struggling to understand. So if the operational framework is in place, an administration came in and maybe wasn't necessarily as enthusiastic as the administration that initiated it, everybody wants to make money. People didn't just, gift money to this project, right? Shareholders want to make money from the project. Could the shareholders not sit down together and decide on how to move the project forward in a way that delivers value for themselves and, of course, for the government as well?
Thank you, Bassey, for that question. Tinapa is not like a factory where you just produce 100 bags of cement and then you sell it off and you get payment for that. It's more that will require patience. It's supposed to serve as a catalyst. Okay, money will come, maybe eventually. Money will come, and but then you need to put in the work, and that will take time. That's number one. So these people may not have invested as much as the customer state government has done. So probably that coordination, that push, that promotion, active promotion of the project, by maybe the original promoter or any other person that feels, committed, is necessary to bring others together. I mentioned the issue of having a board in place. This is very important because there are some board-related issues that even management can't handle. Those are necessary to cause the stakeholders, those equity shareholders, to be able to act. There are certain things that have made them unable to act like you expect them to do. And for the person that asked about, the possibility of decoupling it from the federal government, no. It is, in fact, there's no need to decouple. Like Mr. Etim said, we don't need government. Wherever in the world the free zone scheme is implemented, it requires strong political will. In fact, in some countries that have recorded successes in their free zone schemes, either the president or the vice president, and then in the case of state-owned free zones, either the governor or the deputy governor is required to sit on the board, okay, of the regulatory board or so of those agencies, because the laws that are implemented, they are discriminatory. So you will always have people who feel cheated, who feel there's no level playing ground, banding together to ensure that the free zone does not function the way it's supposed to function. So there's a reason why they have not taken up that, they have not played that, that role, that robust role of getting all these things in place. But then, as a board comes, comes on, gets constituted and these issues are discussed, the lawyers are able to sit down to iron those things out. These shareholders will probably be able to act the way they should.
I'm curious. Sorry, Dr. I'm curious to know why it hasn't had a functioning board. I mean, have the shareholders given up on the project?
Well, I wouldn't say they have given up, but with all that is happening, the team has mentioned one idea that is currently being promoted and all that. There are a few others that are also in the front burner, okay, that will transform Tinapa. Maybe as they see all these things happening, they get encouraged once more, and we'll be able to link minds with the rest of the team to move the place forward. There are a lot of things coming up. Yes, the waterfront is back. In this year, we're going to focus on the shopping and commerce. We're also talking to other people beyond the Calabar Chamber of Commerce to take a look at the possibility of setting up a jetty. Now, that will have its own positive impact on the Gulf of Guinea trade hub that is being taking place. So a whole lot is happening. And
okay, thank you, Dr. Ekon. Let me take this over to Mr. Aja. So 2 weeks ago, we had Kay Henshaw, the Nigerian actress, on this conversation, and and one of the ideas that came up there was that why can't Tinapa be the home of Nollywood? Why can't it be the home of Nollywood? You've got wonderful infrastructure. In fact, at a point, of course, we know that Ebony TV was actually operating out of Calabar, out of Tinapa. We know that I think half of A Yellow Sun was shot in Tinapa. Why can't Tinapa become the home of Nollywood? And Nollywood is not something that is, it's thriving, it's growing, it's expanding, and you could say because government doesn't really have a hand in it, right? How can't we make Tinapa the home of Nollywood? We've got the facilities to do that, and Calabar lends itself to, to that sort of industry. What are your thoughts, Mr. Aja?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and the two gentlemen before me had made the point over and over. Tinapa was well planned, well thought. I told you when I was a junior in investment banking, I sat across the room before it was built by the Commissioner of Finance, and he was talking to an investment bank. This was one of the largest investment banks in Nigeria, explaining what they wanted to do. I saw the plans, I saw the program. I didn't have experience in economics, but you could see the thinking. Turn an agrarian state into a service state. Tourism is Forex. That's IGR. This is money. It is the fastest way to evaporate poverty. Tourism. Tinapa, look at Tinapa as Dubai. Imagine a Dubai where the prices were higher. That's not that no one would go there. So Dubai has got the ports, the airports, then it's got the free trade. So the prices are lower in Dubai because the government absorbs all that cost. I want to lay this foundation to say that it's a hospital. Tinapa is hospitality, it's accommodation, then it's the ports. Unfortunately, because those things are all coupled together, if you take away one, the economic case reduces. If you cannot have people flying to Tinapa to buy foreign and local goods, then the use case sort of diminishes. You then see the revenues going. Why would I leave Lagos, going to shop right in Lagos, or going to the mall in Lagos to fly to Calabar, right, and shop in Calabar, again in Lagos? But if I could fly to Calabar and buy Hugo Boss and Gucci in Calabar, then I could fly, do sightseeing, spend money on chicken in Calabar, and that's the wealth. When you go to carnivals in Calabar, you see everyone is fried chicken on their doorstep. They're all painting the roads, and that's how wealth, that's funds transfer from state to state. Cross River got that correct. And to answer your question specifically, Nollywood was captured. This was before Nollywood was as big as it is. They had the Nollywood studios. It was there with the gorilla guy, the King Kong guy. It was right there. It was captured in the plan to say, come in and shoot your movies in a planned, emporium where you'd have the internet, the lights, the sound, all that. Just like having New York, the school and all that. So what I think is really going on is two things. Number one, we'll talk about the federal government's not meeting Calabar. But Calabar themselves, the Cross River states themselves, and I'm just saying this because I know a lot about this project. If they let this go away, if they let Tinapa slip away from their hands because they are arguing amongst themselves, Lagos State will build a Tinapa in free trade zone in Lagos, and the Calabar folks are going to fly there and go spend money there. This is an opportunity. Argue or not argue, the infrastructure is on ground now. It's been vandalized, but you can fix it. Get Nollywood in there. They used to do Tinapa annual music concerts. Hugh Masekela came. Go and watch what Hugh Masekela said about Calabar. This is Hugh Masekela. He has gone for concerts all across the world. He stopped the concert and he talked about Calabar and where he was and the vibes he was getting. And I think he made that point because he had seen that it was going downhill. And he tried to warn the Calabar people, say, don't let what you have go away. Don't lose what you have. So these points I'm making it, I'm an economist, I'm a capitalist. But Calabar has all those factors, the people, the environment, now the infrastructure, it's there. You can, even if the ports are not dredged, it takes away the trading, right? But you still have all this stuff there. Market Calabar as the Vegas of Nigeria. All the conferences, it just happened before. Focus on that. Let the place stay warm. Once the right political situation in Nigeria changes and you have a federal government that can listen, then go to them and possibly change these laws and then get the free trade licenses into Calabar. But it's got to stay warm. It can't be. Have you seen the pictures of Tinapa? It's dead. It's not, it's completely broken. It can't be like that. And that is on Cross River State now. The federal government has failed. So Cross River should not also fail. It's a wonderful project. It can be revived. It shouldn't be manufacturing. It should remain as a service, hospitality place. It is very, very good, and you should not let it go to waste. Otherwise, you will regret it 10, 15 years from today.
All right, Mr. Aja, thanks very much. So I think we've got a couple of hands raised. So let me go to Usain Etam. So Usain, if you can unmute and preferably if you can switch your video on as well. And tell us if you have a question or a comment.
Okay, Iso, thanks so much. And thank you for the opportunity to be at a session like this that is helping galvanize us all to see how we can make our community better and fix some of the issues that we've observed that may be lapses. I think I would agree with, mine is not a question, I will agree with Aja. And I think everybody keeps saying Tinapa was well conceived, well implemented. I think the implementation side was flawless, but the conception itself was like putting a cart before the horse. What does, I was a banker in Calabar then, and I think I see Francis online. He's been part of the project for a long, long time. And I said there'll be issues in it working, even the way it is. Even if government were to make all the enabling laws and the rest of them, Tinapa will still have an issue. Why? Because the designers and the implementers of the project deviated from what gave Calabar a comparative advantage. In the scheme and the scope of things in Nigeria, every state has this comparative advantage everywhere, even in the United States. If I'm going to Vegas, I'm okay, maybe I want to go gamble or just go while away time and do some other things. Tourism was the bedrock of what Cross River State and Calabar as a city and their adjoining cities within Cross River State were known for. And who were the who were the people that were patronizing Tinapa then and Calabar. The adjoining states like Akwa Ibom, I used to drive all the way from Port Harcourt every weekend and spend my time in Calabar. Everybody wouldn't that axis, because a civil service driven economy like Calabar itself cannot consume it cannot give back the investment, the ROI expected from Tinapa the way it is. So it needed to attract a lot of other people to come in and spend their money there. What happened after then? The state government, I think there were no even roads for the people from Akwa Ibom to come in, or even from Port Harcourt. I don't know anyone that will take a chopper flight or cross the boat to come to Calabar to enjoy the scenery and all the goodies that went on there in terms of the infrastructure and everything in terms of tourism. They wrote totally off. Even the government would have even helped. I know the government of Donald Duke used to patch that road because that brought people in. We had all the festivals that were put in place, the mountain races, to keep that upbeat. At every point of the year, we know something is going to bring somebody back to Calabar. What I'm thinking, Tinapa should have been something like a Disneyland. I'm leaving Lagos. I'm leaving Port Harcourt. No one just takes a flight from Lagos and want to come to Calabar to shop. Chances are that all those things are already there in Calabar, even Port Harcourt. People, little shops and emporiums are springing up that will have the similar thing. It should have been like a mini Disneyland. That, oh, I'm leaving Lagos, leaving Kano, Abuja with all the bustling. I know that this is the one-stop place that I'm going to see all the things that I can create fun for my kids. Kids are a major factor when you want to attract people to an economy. And then when they come in now, shopping in Tinapa will be a derivative from that tourism aspect that was there. If I want, then I can go to Obudu, come back. And there were flights from the airport to Obudu, to Baby. Also, if I want, I can go see the Marina Resort. I can go around the city. I can take a boat cruise and the rest of them. I thought that was the initial concept, but putting like all trading in front as the major thing that Tinapa was built on, it worked initially, but long term, what will compel someone from even near Port Harcourt to come and say, okay, I want to go and buy Hugo Boss or some designer shirts in Calabar, given the way the situation and the security of the country is. And the state itself does not have the inhabitants of the state, not all have that capacity to spend on Tinapa to be able to enable Tinapa recover to the state that it was. So I agree with Aja in some ways and David in some ways. Let it be repurposed. If tourism is put at the forefront of it, let tourism be. If it's Hollywood, something that would attract people to want to live wherever they are, spend their hard-earned resources, fly in, given all the costs, spend money in the hotels and the rest of them. That is what will make Tinapa succeed the way it is. Or internally, look at it, because I remember some people came at a time. I may not have had all the relevant information about it. Give it away at a rate that will attract outside business people to come in to want to settle. Give tax incentive, 5 years, maybe don't pay rent or something. So once they are settled and taken root, they will not be able to live again. So I still think the way Tinapa is structured now, there's need to restructure it to make it work. Thank you.
Okay, Osen, thanks very much. I think Hannah Etta, if I'm not mistaken, I think you have some comments you would like to make. So you can unmute yourself, please, and go ahead and make your comments. And let's try and keep it brief, so if we can restrict to a minute, please.
Yes, good evening, everybody. I actually have another Zoom meeting I'm supposed to join, so I'll be very brief. Like I have put up on the chat, I live in Calabar. I'm from Calabar. So I am one of those that is very pained that Tinapa has become the ghost that it is. My children grew up in Tinapa. Like, we were always in the game center. We bought our wooden materials from there. We did our shopping there. We went to the swimming pool. and they ran down the tunneling slides. I mean, it was that good. The ice cream and everything. We were at the Ebony TV place. But I don't know why anybody should be that mean to bring politics into such a thing to destroy it. I have said in my chat, until we can sever Tinapa from the government, I don't know if it is to privatize or whatever. Maybe a group of private individuals should come together and take that place. It will never wake up. Because this government comes and goes to build one half gigantic thing somewhere and leaves it abandoned half. Another one comes and goes to build another thing, leaves it incomplete. There's a Tinapa. Why can't everybody come and make Tinapa to become the Sun City of Nigeria? Why can't we, like the last speaker has said, why can't that be the Disneyland of Nigeria? And everything is on ground to do that, but everybody wants to come and build CCIC that nobody is using. Everybody wants to come and build tunneling spaghettis that are not realistic and chopping down trees and selling to China. I mean, why are we so selfish? So let us cut Tinapa away from the government. If it is to form a coalition of business people, let them take up that place and give us back our Tinapa. My kids are in their early 20s now. Like I say, where do you take children to when there's holiday? Nowhere. Go to Marina Resort. What is there? They've gone to that museum all their lives.
Mrs. Zeta, so, but according to Francis, you can take them to the water park in Tinapa right now.
And after the water park, I'm just telling you the number of things we used to do in Tinapa. Please, let a group of business, and let us bring down the stakes a bit. Maybe later on when it is established, we can now raise up the stakes again. I asked for an emporium in Tinapa then. I was told, is it $6 million or $6,000 for one? One kind of amount of money that I can even count for the whole of my life, I will never have. Why can't we bring down the stakes, get people into that place? Let the fish woman that roasts fish have a place to roast fish in Tinapa. Let the woman that is cooking and something have a place. Give everybody their places. Even as much as we want the outsiders, let a white man come from Canada and be able to eat a dikanikon in Tinapa. It is tourism. It should be about tourism. Let me be able to import my products and sell them to my colleagues in the office through Tinapa. I don't have to drop things, go to Lagos to Tinkan Island to clear my goods. Let those goods come to Tinapa. I go there, pick them up, and do my small business. And we all have our classes and survival in Tinapa. It is our Tinapa. Abi?
Okay, thanks very much. Thank you. We've got just a few minutes left, so we may begin to round off. But okay, Francis, I see you're eager to make a question. She's, you can hear the passion and the anger, in her voice. And let me ask this question. Let me ask this question. Maybe you can answer it and then go on to make the comments you wanted to make. Okay. To what extent has Tinapa become the victim of maybe government that doesn't really have that much of an interest in it? There are some people who say if Donald Duke had another 4 years in government, Tinapa would be very successful. I don't know, I'm not necessarily saying that I agree with that, but to what extent, has government's lack of interest maybe and lack of support for that project hindered it?
Okay, I would like to make this clarification. I wouldn't want to segment government, since government is a continuum. Now, but I can say this, the Cross River State government has put in place all that is required. The regulatory framework is in place, and what is required now is for private investors to come in. I keep saying that the Cross River State government does not need to spend a dime for Tinapa to come alive. However, there's one major and overriding issue, one factor, and that is uncertainty. No serious-minded investor will place 10 kobo on the table until they are certain, they are sure that the investment will be protected. So that is the role that government should play now, to do all that it can to create an enabling environment that has, certainty. So you know that, okay, if you invest this amount, you have this protection. That protection will require maybe government making it possible for investors to have up to 30 years of unfettered access and control of their investments inside Tinapa. That's something that a board in place can put together and drive, together with government and all that. So we do not expect government. Government has a lot of responsibilities at the moment, so we don't expect them to bring in any funds. But then we are ready, and these submissions have been made to government on how we can go about addressing the issue of uncertainty. This uncertainty has various phases, right from the federal to the state to the activities of some agencies and all that. Some have led to full-blown litigations, of which we have won, in two instances and all that. One is in the Supreme Court and all that, just to give legal interpretation to some of the gray areas, and as soon as these things are addressed, and someone knows that, okay, if I come in, it's not for lack of investors. Let me make this clear. If I have over time, out of the army of the investors, I can identify two that have the capacity, have the finance required to implement their ideas inside Tinapa, and that will place that on the map of the world yet again. Again, there are certain things that government will need to do.
And government is not willing to do that.
No, I've not said that.
Okay, all right. I mean, okay. Mr. Sadiq Kasim, maybe you want to make the final comments from our guests.
Thank you very much, Iso. I've listened to all the panelists and all the contributions from members who have joined in, and I'm quite thrilled that at last we seem to be looking at the solutions rather than the problems that have kept us where we are. And I think Francis has finally nailed it, which I just put on a comment. The issue is mostly corporate governance that has been lacking from the onset till now. And if that is put in place, then everything would fall in place too. I think we need to, as stakeholders, as people who are interested in Cross River as a state and as a viable thing, we must all put our heads together and make sure that this thing happens. Once there is a stable corporate governance structure, it will definitely go beyond governments that come in and go, and we'll have a successful Tinapa, and generally all the things would fall in place. Thank you very much.
Iso, can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks very much. Okay, yes, David, we can hear you.
Yes, just wanted to clarify something. There's something that Kalu Aja said about the channel. There's a huge misconception that the Calabar Channel is a constriction for Tinapa's trade. It's not correct. Okay, it's not correct.
I agree with you.
It's not correct. So the channel has no constriction. There's no constriction to the trade of Tinapa. The real issue of Tinapa, like Malam Kazim has said, is the governance of Tinapa. But that is, for me, that's a yesterday story. Okay? I think the private sector should own its space. I am 100% private sector, thoroughbred, if I may say so. And I think that we should own our space. I think the private sector should take ownership of Tinapa, because trade, be it tourism, be it Nollywood, be it services provision, none of these things are government businesses. It is the private sector that drives those things. Nollywood has become Nollywood today because Nollywood was not looking for government. Government started looking for Nollywood when government realized the value that Nollywood brought to the table. The private sector of Cross River State must own this project, okay? I would want to surprise you guys. Everybody's talking about buying Hugo Boss. Well, Rolls-Royce is owned by Tata, an Indian company. Mercedes-Benz or BMW is owned by Geely, a Chinese manufacturer. So it is the bread and butter businesses that build the future. The luxury good market is fine. but bread and butter is it. Okay? Now, trade today, boxer shorts, plastics that go through Cross River State into Central Africa, in rubber slippers, in buckets, in GP tanks, 50 billion naira a year of trade. Boxer shorts and t-shirts, knitwear that comes out of Aba and goes into Central Africa, 25 billion naira worth of trade. Crayfish that comes out of Oron from Ibaka all the way throughout, 4.6 billion naira worth of trade, but it all moves in trickles. When you consolidate trade, you see the value, you see the volumes. But when it moves as informal trade, it moves in trickles, nobody benefits. Even the traders, it is the middlemen that are making the money. If we create a consolidation center in Tinapa for regional trade, if at least 30% of that trade volume will remain in Cross River State. At least 30%, because you're adding value all the way through. From the woman that's selling bolly, like the lady said, right through to the hotel, right through to all the logistics that will go through. At least 30% of that value will be retained. But with informal trade, nothing is going. Thank you.
Mr. Etim, thanks very much. I'm very conscious of the fact that our time is fast spent. So what I would do, I would ask Mr. Aja to just make closing remarks, and then and then we'll call the conversation. Call it to an end.
Just to say thank you. Just to say thank you for the invite and for the discussions. I think everyone is saying the same thing. We have an opportunity that will show that. I think that's just it. And even at the current form, I say Tinapa should be kept warm. It should be used now, because down the line, when the politics open up, you want to be ready to go. And the financing is, the world now has got lots of financing. Definitely. And who get a financer abroad, bring him into Nigeria and invest. I think that's just it. Mistakes have been made. Let's move forward, get some financing, restructure that debt. Rates have come down. So restructure that debt to keep it manageable, get a new partner to come in, and then let's take it from there. There are quick wins that we can do right now to get it moving and through that, and then should be just on our will for everyone. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks very much, Mr. Aja. So thanks very much to all our panelists, Mr. Etim, Dr. Francis Ekom, and Mr. Kalu Aja. Thanks very much for making our time to be on this conversation with us today. And thanks also to everyone who's coming on Zoom, and those watching on Facebook and on YouTube as well. We really appreciate the fact that you've taken our time to be with us. Hopefully, it's still still a bit here, up in the air, but I think we've had a fruitful conversation around the future of Tinapa. So just to remind you that this conversation has been brought to you by the Cross River Movement. And if you haven't joined us, visit our website, www.crossrivermove.com, and sign up. So we're non-governmental, we are not-for-profit, we're non-partisan. All we want is the development of Cross River State, and we're just looking to build that ecosystem of different partners and stakeholders who can help us to forge a brighter future for the state. I'd encourage you to follow us on social media, on Facebook. So it's www.facebook.com/crossrivermove, twitter.com/crossrivermove, and instagram.com/crossriver.move. You can also search for our YouTube channel, the Cross River Movement, and then subscribe to our channel so that you can get notifications whenever we post videos on there, which is quite regularly actually. And just to let you all know that our next conversation comes up on Sunday, the 13th of March, which is in 2 weeks' time. And that's going to be focused on International Women's Day. So our panelists will be all female, and we're bringing in leaders from across politics, business, and education. So, make that a date with us. And we had a Vox Pop done, which we were unable to play because of time. But I believe that the link to that Vox Pop on our YouTube channel has been shared in the comments in the chat section. So watch it. So the participants there were mostly young people, so it would interest you to know what the young people in Calabar have to say about Tinapa. So thanks once again, everyone, for joining this conversation. We look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time when we celebrate women. Thanks very much.
Thank you.